St. Michael Lutheran Church began in 1981 as a new congregation positioned at the frontier of suburban streets and rural fields. At the time, it was so far away from downtown Omaha that some wondered why a congregation would be so far away from the city. Now, we are surrounded by miles of homes and businesses, and it is the rural fields that feel very far away. In the 40 years of our history, we have been blessed with faithful leadership in our community and a gifted group of people in the pews trying to let their light shine before others. We're not a perfect bunch by any means, but we've come to think of ourselves as a growing family, even though that's especially hard when our worship is spread over 2 days and 3 different times. That's one of the reasons we called our current pastor, a former farmer rooted in the close-knit communities of rural Nebraska, who understands what it means for a sower to go out and sow. We can never capture the generational relationships of a small town, but we have indeed grown in our connections to one another. COVID, of course, challenged that, but we worked hard to take care of one another, and that was evident on Easter morning of 2021, when 400 of us gathered outside to shout, "Christ is risen," as the sun rose over the Nebraska prairie. Okay, it was really a city park by an elementary school, but that day it was truly sacred ground. Worship has always been the soil we are rooted in. St. Michael is uniquely known in Omaha as the Lutheran church that loves music and liturgy. We may not have a praise band, but we often hear an entire ensemble of recorders, handbell choirs, brass, adult and children's choirs, plus organ, piano, violin, cello, oboe, banjo, flute, and even bongos. On special occasions, wafts of incense fill the sanctuary, and authentic icons urge us to ponder God's mystery every day. And that worship leads us out into the world to share God's love by partnering with Habitat for Humanity, food pantries, sponsoring refugee families, and volunteering with a free medical clinic run by one of our members. We are a teaching congregation, with Pastor Tim currently supervising our 6th seminary intern. They bring contagious enthusiasm and energy to our congregation as we learn as much from them as they do from us. We partner with the Northern Diocese of Tanzania, where we build houses, relate to a sister congregation, and have developed a great many cherished relationships. Yet the single most important and far-reaching ministry of this congregation is empowering and equipping members of Christ's body to live with love in their daily lives as healthcare workers, teachers, truck drivers, lawyers, CNAs, accountants, child care providers, students, business owners, actors, tech workers, engineers, retirement volunteers, and whatever else God has enabled them to do. These fields may not be planted to corn, but they are the ones we are sent to work in. As a part of this sabbatical application, we provided a survey to all these good folks and asked what outcomes they thought would come from a sabbatical. Included was a link to a narrative that explained how our pastor and his wife would be grounded in their trip throughout the upper Midwest, visiting friends and learning from places where rural and urban are once again meeting together. We had an overwhelming response, with nearly unanimous agreement on the provisions and goals of the plan. But here are thoughts from a few of them in their own words.
I think we're going to learn how to grow and work together more, but realize the importance of good leadership in our congregation.
When I think of the sabbatical, I think of a number of words that begin with the prefix re. Renew, rejoice, reinvigorate, revitalize, recreate. I think oftentimes we get into routines in everything that we do, and sometimes we just need to separate from that. And I think it will be a healthy experience for both Pastor Tim and for our congregation to step back and have the opportunity to look at things anew.
I am thrilled that Pastor Tim is applying for a sabbatical. He has gallantly led us through the pandemic and the recovery that has occurred. For him to be able to return to the farm where he grew up, to spend time with his dad, mending fences, and just being part of the rural environment again is so important to him. As an urban congregation, we delight in his ability to relate rural life to us, to help us connect with nature again, to be aware of how nature surrounds us here in the city. For him to be able to spend time with Shelley, his wife, is also very precious, because as everyone knows, it's not just the pastor who is the pastor for the congregation. The congregation will have to pick up some work. It's an opportunity for us to grow together, to work together, and to pray in different ways.
It's always important from my perspective that the congregation be grounded in the wideness of God's mercy and in the scope of ministry, and to see itself as much more wealthy in every respect, with resources and skills and abilities within the congregation, and step out even wider and broader in terms of doing ministry with others, no matter where they may be found or where they are.
As I read the narrative, there was a little fire that came inside of me as I thought about the possibility of developing relationships with rural parishes in Nebraska, or a rural parish in Nebraska. And it seems like there would be quite an opportunity here to come to know each other and really set aside those kinds of divides and really listen to each other's stories.
I'm Cork Raymer, and it is my good pleasure to serve as Vice President of the Congregational Council. My wife Judy and I are so very blessed to have become a part of this loving, caring, welcoming, and joyful congregation. There's a strong sense of caring here. We take care of one another very well, and we take that care out of this building and into our community and world. Pastor Tim lovingly prods, cajoles, and inspires us to take our talents, heart, and faith and share them with those we know and, more importantly, with those we do not know.
My name is Tim Custer, and I'm the pastor here at St. Michael Lutheran Church. I'm thankful that we had a chance to share a little of our story with you, and I want you to know that we're praying for you in your discernment as we continue to give thanks to God, who rains down grace upon the world, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater, and accomplishing all things according to the one who is the source, who is the ground of our being and our life.